some people say you can be a bit harsh.
Give me their names. I'll take care of the rest.
Well, how much time do you have? So here's the thing. You have a certain style, a certain approach, a certain way that you approach things, and maybe you might even say an angle, whatever it is. Some people might say, to put it in a certain phrase, it's too brazen, too brash, something like that. Perhaps mean-spirited. What's your justification for the way you approach apologetics, specifically in the area relating to Muslims?
Well, there can be a couple different justifications. You could do one would be scriptural, right? So if you're saying, oh, you can't be mean. If you read the New Testament, you're supposed to be loving towards people, and that's going to mean that you should be nice in these various situations. And you can find lots of passages that would indicate that. One problem with that is if you believe that these verses are saying that you should always just be as nice as possible. I mean, who in the New Testament passes that test, right? Who in the New Testament meets that criteria?
What do you mean by that?
Jesus, when he calls the scribes and Pharisees whitewashed tombs and fools, he could have been much nicer.
What if someone says, well, yeah, but you're not Jesus?
Well, then you'd go with the apostles, right? The apostle Paul sees Elymas the sorcerer and calls him enemy of righteousness and son of the devil. Now, it would never cross my mind. You son of the devil. I would never be that harsh. But notice, if people are saying no, nice all the time, something like that, then all of these guys fail, and they're all bad examples, and I can't bring myself to do. The only conclusion I can draw from that is there are times when you fire away at people, and it's usually against people who are psychologically or religiously oppressing people, right? They're bearing down on people and controlling other people.
When you say fire away, though, what do you mean by fire away? Because there's got to be some limits. Like if you said, "I'm going to fire away at this guy." Oh
yeah, I'm talking. If someone is acting like just a complete idiot, is there ever a time when you can say, God, look, you sound like an idiot, right? Versus, I happen to disagree with that, right? Well, if Jesus said, you fools, then there is a time when you can say, you fools. Just to be clear, I'm not saying go around saying fools. I'm saying scripturally there has to be a time where that is appropriate. And so there are questions of where to draw the line. So anyway, the point there is just saying, as Christians, we have to be nice all the time. That doesn't follow from the Scripture. Is it
biblically acceptable to say, I pity the fool?
Absolutely, and of course, right?
Okay.
I mean,
that's what I say.
You would say we pity those Pharisees, right? That Jesus called
fools.
So we pity the fools.
Mr. T is within his.
We pity the fools. Absolutely. We should start saying that. Yeah. So that's sort of a scriptural justification. The other is more practical, and that's that. I learned early on as I was interacting with Muslims, and it started with Nabil, that one night we were watching.
So just make sure everyone knows, though, Nabil Qureshi, born and raised Muslim himself, former Muslim, and
converted to Christianity after about 4 years of discussions, and he had dreams and visions and so on. Right. And he eventually became a Christian. But before he became a Christian, we had 4 years of ongoing discussions. And I noticed as time went on that he was looking at things in a different way from me. So we watched Jamal Badawi versus William Lane Craig debate. I would have scored that like 95-5. Craig just crushed Badawi. And we're sitting there watching this, and we finished the debate, and I think, I got Nabil, right? And so I say, so what'd you think? And he said, well, Badawi clearly won. And I'm thinking, what is he looking at, right? There are Christians who are automatically going to side with their debater, and there are Muslims who are automatically going to side with their debater. Nabil was more honest and intellectually honest than that.
So he had a reason. What was his reason?
Yeah, what was he seeing that I wasn't seeing? And that was so clear that by the end of the debate, Badawi starts yelling because he's so frustrated. Now we look at that and, you're yelling because you're frustrated. You're losing. You're getting desperate. Yeah. The other guy, William Lane Craig, is perfectly calm because he knows his arguments are refuting yours and so on. It took me a while to get this out of Nabil, but I eventually did. When he sees Badawi yelling, it's because Badawi is passionate. Why is he so passionate? because deep down he knows it's truth.
Right.
His passion in yelling is actually some kind of evidence that he's right.
So it's almost like an apologetic argument
Yeah.
to people who look at that through that way. And some of it's cultural, some has to do with the religion of Islam itself, and they're saying this is evidence of the rightness or correctness of his position.
Yeah, they do regard it in that way, and we even find this in the Muslim sources. We find this in the Muslim sources where Abu Bakr and Umar, the first and second rightly guided caliphs, they had a dispute, and then Umar said, "But I could tell by the heaving of his chest that he was right." So Abu Bakr's just going,
and that was an apologetic argument.
That shows that he's right? Why would, think about this, why would he get so excited and upset over an issue unless it was because he was so confident that he was right?
Right.
And if he has that kind of confidence, and maybe I don't know all the reasons, but I know that he's confident enough to get angry and upset over that.
That's a new one, the chest heaving argument.
And notice, but the reverse follows as well.
Okay.
If William Lane Craig is just sitting there calmly answering Badawi, then deep down, maybe William Lane Craig doesn't believe what he's saying. Why wouldn't he be getting more upset that someone is leading people away from God? Why wouldn't he be more passionate about this? Why would he be so calm about issues that are so important? So his calmness is evidence that
he doesn't really believe
it's not true.
Yeah, it's not authentic to him.
So this was, at first I just thought that was Nabil, but over time I started seeing this over and over again, and then when I see it in the Muslim sources, and then when you see how Muslims react in certain areas of the world, like in Pakistan, there's even a rumor that someone has disgraced Muhammad or the Quran. There's bloody riots in the streets.
Yeah.
Why? That's evidence that what we believe is true. If we produce the biggest, bloodiest riots, then that's evidence for us. Now, as Christians, there are clearly lines. We can't, in order to reach Muslims, we have to go launch bloody riots or something like that. We're not allowed to do those kinds of things. But I've tried to strive for a kind of balance where if I'm talking to a Muslim, I have to understand niceness, just being nice. It is for some Muslims, but for many, many Muslims in the world, being nice has nothing to do with whether you are right.
So you think it's part of the context of Islam that partially guides your approach?
Yeah, it's specifically interacting with Muslims, and they just over and over again. I could post an argument and just lay out my sources, and they wouldn't respond. But if you present it more passionately, more aggressively, more, hey, this is what refutes your prophet.
Because I don't think people would see you necessarily as like emotionally boiling over, but maybe aggressive.
Yeah.
In the way it's presented in the language used, or very extremely direct, frank, blunt, like very kind of way, not all nuanced.
Yeah, so if you were a Christian, and I know this because I used to be like this. I used to, if I wanted to share an argument against Muhammad, if I wanted to share an argument against the Quran, I were talking to a Muslim, I would try and be like as gentle as I could possibly be. Like, I don't want to put any stumbling block of meanness in this person's way. Let me try and make the point while being as nice as possible. And it would just, they don't care at all what I'm saying. And then later I would present the exact same argument, but I would be going, how can you believe this? This is so clearly not from God. And they're paying attention. And so I just sort of picked up on this, and there's no 100% correct way, but Christians need to be aware of what appeals to certain groups. And we tend to think, well, here's what I like, right? I would like it if a person just calmly, nicely presents information to me and gives me the reasons, and I can weigh those reasons. We think, well, that's how I am, therefore that's the way everyone else is. And everyone else just doesn't happen to be like that. You have to, it's person by person.
Final thing on that. So you're not necessarily saying that William Lane Craig did anything wrong, that he should have acted different.
Craig was phenomenal.
You're just saying this is your justification for why maybe some people might approach it this way, or something like that.
Yeah, Craig was phenomenal, but we need to be aware that there are certain people who are looking for things other than who calmly had the best argument, right?
Right.
They're more inclined to agree with the person who's more passionate. And so, as a Christian, I would say, have the best argument and also be passionate. If you're talking to Muslims, right? Also be passionate, also be aggressive. If you're talking to Muslim and you figured out that this Muslim isn't someone who would respond more to a nicer approach, because there are Muslims who would respond more, more to a nice, calm approach. And so, but you can usually spot which are which, right? Someone's coming to you, Muhammad is proven true, and Christianity's you can already tell what sort of personality you're dealing with, right? And they're not going to listen to, I just love you, brother. They're just not going to listen.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I've heard that the first century rabbis, that it was like sort of common, the way Jesus argued was very contextual for that context as well. So there might be some similarities with that. Well, let's go on. This is very different, this next question. All right? Very different.
Oh, crap, I'm not recording. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was going to say.
Whatever, it's still fun. So your wife, were you already related to her prior to your marriage?
Let me talk about my wife, dirtbag. Because that's...
Oh, she's
get
from
the crab smacked out
Virginia,
of you.
not West Virginia. I apologize. Next time, I will be better prepared for our interview.